Welcome to the D&D world of Roll 420s from Binge on This. Join along as a racially confused cleric.
My name is Flint Fireford. I'm actually a human cleric, but I totally believe that I'm a dwarf.
A klepto with a forgotten past.
My name is Silver with a Y, with no memory before the age of 89.
A 300-pound stoner that was raised by Monty Python pirates.
My name is Thelonious Kindbud of Clan Kindbud, and I'm the captain of the Sing Semilla.
And a woodsman from Montana.
Steve, he's real big into bagpipes, too.
As they go on a wild campaign known as...
The campaign, I've called it the War of the Brother Kings.
Fuck, you baller monster.
Join us for this brand new D&D campaign on an all-new show from Binge on This called Roll 420s.
Quiet on set.
Quiet on set. Welcome to Sam of All Trades, a Binge on This show. Binge on This, where you can find other shows like Roll 420, our D&D campaign, Reading Ronin, where tales and fables are read, What's Hood with Forever Cabron, where we get an introspective dive into the Latin culture, and This, That, and the Other with me, Sam, and my co-host with the most, Bryan Tassara. And today joining me is Alexis Cuña, a registered nurse. Welcome. I wish we had clapping. I can't clap.
I can clap for myself.
There we go. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for coming and doing this.
For sure.
I know you were a little timid about getting the interview thing going, but
I still am.
It's all good. It's all good. It's going to be very easy. It's going to be very quick, but I really appreciate your time.
Okay.
All right, so you are a registered nurse. Can you tell me a little bit how you got into that?
Oh, that's a long story. But long story short, I was an art major. I was a writer. I was everything non-healthcare.
Okay.
But my family were all in healthcare, and it's just a really long story. But anyways, I tried it. I loved it. I'm still in it.
Okay.
And I like what I do.
That's great. I mean, so yeah, you got pushed in that direction, kind of a family thing. My family's a little more on the cops side, but my sister's now a respiratory therapist, so they kind of went in that direction. Actually, we have a lot of people in the caregiver, and so thank you for doing that. That's, I feel like we should talk to nurses like veterans now. Like, thank you for your
It's always
for
a
your
little
service.
awkward when people say that to me, like, thank you for your service. I'm like, you're
So-
welcome.
So that kind of brings me into the next part. So you're a registered nurse. So what do you actually do compared to what people think you do?
Well, every time I say I'm a nurse, people always think Grey's Anatomy, right? So
okay, yeah.
that's like the number one thing. That, you guys have sex in the rooms in the hospital, and you climb the beds and do CPR on people, and what's the weirdest thing you've seen? It's always the questions.
Always the question.
The thing is, it's what I do, especially because I work in ICU. I see the worst of the worst, and I actually do a lot of crazy things. But if I have to explain it to you guys, it's not going to sound the same as Grey's Anatomy.
Right. Like a team of writers wrote your...
It's not going to make sense, because unless you understand the background, you're not really going to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like all the little things that I do. And of course, there's always the jargon that people don't understand, So people think that I either go crazy Grey's Anatomy style, or I'm just passing meds. I'm a med pusher.
And then there's probably the one end of people that are like, house, right? You're like the nurses in house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And I'm sure perception of what nurses do and doctors do in this time of the pandemic has changed. Obviously, your duties have amplified during this COVID thing, but how has it changed?
It's funny that you say that it's been amplified, because in a lot of ways it hasn't been. We've always had this kind of intense environment, especially if you're working in ICU or if you work in the emergency department. Like, this is how our norm is,
Okay.
But now we have something that we don't know. That's what the fact of the matter is. Like, nobody knows what COVID is. Nobody knows how to treat it properly. We think we know, and then the next thing you know, they're not getting better, and people are literally dying. Like, I've seen in a bag, unfortunately, a few bodies because of COVID, and people think, oh, this person died because of pneumonia. They just so happen to have COVID, and what people don't understand is they all sleep in the same bed.
Yeah. It's all
but
linked.
The fact of the matter is the patient had COVID when they passed away. But in terms of you telling me that it's been amplified, it's been the same in that way. What's not the same is that we don't know how to treat it. Things
Okay.
are changing every day. Actually, things are changing every hour. Literally, I go into work, it's one thing. In 3 hours, don't do that. We don't do that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's
And that must be-
probably the biggest thing.
Obviously, that's very tough on you because
Right.
you're trying to care for these people and they're looking at you for care, but it's hard to do that when those guidelines are changing for you all the time. So that must be really tough. What is one thing, just to change gears off the COVID a little bit, because we're all a little COVIDed out. What is one thing you would like to have known or learned about before you pursued the medical field? Because I know you said you had a lot of people in your family in that field, so you probably had an insight to it. But what is something that now that you've lived it, you wish you knew?
It's a very empowering career, especially if you pick fields like mine, like critical care. You will definitely feel a certain type of accomplishment in your life, And, you're saying that we're all COVID out, but the thing is, that's probably one thing that I would have wished somebody told me that, hey, nobody really, but that's everybody, right? Like,
Right.
nobody really thought we were ever going to be in a pandemic. Well, this is like probably the most intense that I've been in. And I've been in places where the doctor emergently had to pull your guts out of your stomach. I've seen those things. You know what I
Whoa.
mean? And like where we have to give you like 10 bags of blood in like 15 minutes. Like, I've been in a lot of crazy things, and that gives me adrenaline and I like it. But the thing is with COVID, it's like, it's not just about me. Like, if I go home, I live by myself, but if I had a family, or if I had roommates or whatnot, I go home, I bring that home, I possibly could bring that home to somebody. And these are the things that I wish somebody told me, that because whatever you do can affect your family and loved ones indirectly. And that's probably the biggest thing that scares me.
Yeah.
And the most I worry about every day.
So that kind of brings me to another question about, and we're back on COVID, but
Can't stay away.
Yeah, right. So as a registered nurse, but also as a civilian, as a normal everyday person who is on social media every day, I would assume, what frustrates you most about people's perceptions about this coronavirus, what's going around, or what people are saying?
What I hate the most about this whole COVID thing, and I have this nurse blog going too, so I follow a huge healthcare niche, and I also have my friends and everything and my family who are all in the same thing. What annoys me the most is that it's become so political. Like, it's not political. It's straightforward. People are dying. And we're not just talking about the U.S. We're talking about the entire world.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about Los Angeles or maybe 40 states in the U.S. We're talking about Japan, Italy, Spain, Africa, Brazil, like literally the entire world.
Yeah.
So why is it a question of is it real or not?
When
People are like falling like flies everywhere around the world. That's what frustrates me the most. So why can't we just all do what we think is right? Because we don't know what 100% is right? But we can say that wearing a mask, washing your hands, and all of that is one of the best things that we can do to fight something like this. Why is that so hard? Why does it have to be political?
I don't know.
That's what frustrates me the most.
Because it's not that hard to put on a mask.
It's not. It's really not.
And it is frustrating for me to see it, because you're right. It shouldn't have gotten political. I was watching this from the get-go. I thought to myself, like, oh, this is a good way for humankind to come together. But it went.
Oh my gosh, and it was amazing because in the beginning when this was happening and everybody was scared shitless, everybody was doing what they were supposed to do. Everybody was in quarantine. Everybody was Zoom partying. Nobody was going to people's houses. And you know what? We still made do. There's all this organization that still fed people that were, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There was all this mental health group coming together. It was amazing. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, people got bored. I don't know what the heck happened.
Yeah, I mean, there was, the George Floyd stuff, and I think that with the boredom and being scared and upset for so long, I think just ignited. I think in my that's what I
mean, I don't want to go political in this conversation, but I mean, all the other countries are doing okay. Well, not every country, but it's
doing a little better.
Let's not go political.
Right.
Let's just skip this.
Yeah,
one.
let's stay with the medical field. So, what do you see the future of the medical field? What do you think it'll look like in about 10 years, 15, 20 years? Do you think it'll get better? Do you think the government will jump in and make this universal healthcare?
We can wish for it to be better. Unfortunately, I think that what everybody needs to embrace is that this is the new norm. Even with the vaccine around, it's still not going to be like, hey, it's going to disappear and we're going to go back pre-COVID. It doesn't work like that. It's going to take years to be what was normal. And even then, I don't think it's going to be just normal.
Yeah.
There's going to be always like something that was weird,
Yeah. Well, this is a conversation I had with my other co-host, Bryan. He seems to think that, you can die in a car crash just going to the airport. Or you get to the airport, you could die in a plane crash.
Right.
You could a brick could fall off or shingle could fall off the roof and kill you. Why are we going to be so scared of this COVID thing if 90% are surviving?
I've heard this one before, and honestly, at the end of the day, what we are in this country are free, right? We have the freedom to choose, the freedom of choice, whatnot, people say. And that is absolutely true. And for me, my choice is to protect not me really, but the people I love. Because I can spread very easily. I am frontline. I am very careful at my work, and I'm very careful around people when I have to be around people. And that is the only choice that I want to have choice in. I don't want to be the person that spreads it to anyone else, because I've seen the worst of what it can do to somebody. I've bagged a 37-year-old. We had a 23-year-old die. Like, you know what I mean?
Did most of those people that you see pass away, it's the nicest way of saying die, but they pretty much, I guess, choked on their own fluids, to be crash about. But did they have underlying issues, or was it literally
most of them did, 100%.
Okay.
But I also did bag a young one that didn't. So,
do you see?
But here's the thing: young people don't go to the doctor.
So
true. We don't really know, right?
Yeah.
So we think they're fairly healthy when they come in. So it's a question. It's questionable. But either way, I have backed people that really have nothing. So I don't know.
Have you seen them say that people died of coronavirus when it's been something else? No. Just because they had it?
Nope.
And that's what when we heard the rumors of them saying like...
that's because people don't understand the pathophysiology. I'm not going to get into it. When you have a virus, this is the easiest way to compare this. If you have HIV, you don't die because you have HIV. You die because of AIDS, which is like
compromises
all of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you have coronavirus, you don't die because of the coronavirus. All the stuff that comes in, pneumonia. The one thing that happens to COVID patients, you find it very strange, but this is what happens to them. Their blood clotting gets messed up.
Okay.
They're clotting so fast, so much, that they're having heart attacks and stroke. People think coronavirus, what? Stroke? From the coronavirus.
Right.
You know
okay.
what I mean?
So that
when people say stuff like that, they don't understand the pathophysiology.
Exactly. And that's the common thing I'm seeing out there, is that there's a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about talking.
Right.
So, okay, this is nice and short and sweet. Where we won't carry on this conversation too long. But as a nurse, as a caregiver, a healer, as one would say,
A healer.
I
like
yes.
that one.
Is there anything you'd like to tell the public? It doesn't have to do with coronavirus or whatever. But if you had something that you could just let the people know as a nurse, what would it be?
I mean, oh gosh, like. Everybody is confused. We are confused. The only thing we can do at a time like this is to be kind and not to come with their negativity and their judgment. If somebody tells you this might be the right thing to do, don't go against it just because you feel like it's uncomfortable or inconvenient.
Or against your political view.
Or against your political view. It's nothing in that, like, we're telling you guys this because we're seeing things that you guys don't see. And I, from the bottom of my heart, have seen just the absolute worst with COVID. And I've seen that in other things too, but right now I think it's just very relevant to talk about it. Yeah.
Well, very well said. Hopefully we can have you on This, That, and the Other where we can actually talk about some of the horrible things you've seen, because that sounded interesting. I wanted to hit on those. Like, why are people taking guts out of people? But thank you for coming on to Sam of All Trades.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. And
my voice shaking. I'm still nervous.
You're still nervous? Why are you still nervous?
We're almost done, but I'm still nervous.
It went very well. No, I really appreciate your time. And I'll love to have you on in the future again to have some more questions about nursing. But thank you, Alexis Cuña, ICU registered nurse. What is your title? What would you call yourself?
I'm actually Heart Lexi.
What's that?
My Instagram blog is Heart Lexi. Nobody calls me Alexis.
Okay. Well, Heart Lexi.
No, it's just Lexi.
Okay, Lexi. Well, all right. Since we are buddies now, Lexi.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to have you on again. And well, thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.